Recording in progress. Recording in progress. Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, everybody. We have hit 3 o'clock and we will begin our 2024 section managers meeting for team and individual wrestling on time. We have 30 minutes carved out to be with you today. And as many of you are aware, Susie is recording this, so please feel free to use this recording as well as the resources provided to you for this meeting. Before I turn it over to Laura, just want to say many thanks to all of you that are hosting these qualifying events. It's a ton of work, can also often be very stressful times. And the intent of this meeting today is to assist you with the administration of those section events and to make those go as smooth as possible for you. You can see here the agenda for today, a review of resources that are available to you as section managers, website requirements and media. Laura is on today and she's going to talk about those here in just a moment. We'll get into some specifics with tournament management, talking about track wrestling, weight certification, seating, medical protocols, and just some other keys to managing those events. And then just a few items, general information items before we close. Feel free to ask questions throughout the meeting. The best way to do that will likely be the chat. We do have almost 30 of us on the call today. We do have a team of folks that will likely be able to assist and give you good information for about any question you may have. I think Tony and John, our state track wrestling administrators, are on this call. I believe Mark Queasley and Brad Skogerbo are on the call. They assist with the administration of the state meet. And we have our state rules coordinator, Rick Rude, who can help with any rules interpretations that may be necessary as well. So thanks to all of you. And Laura, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thanks for joining us.
Great. Thanks, Charlie, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to share a number of website and communication slides with you. In good news, those of you who have been around before, very little has changed since last year. So this hopefully is very familiar to you and becoming a commonplace. You should, as a tournament section manager, have a tournament personnel dashboard. Many of you also have an AD dashboard and or a coach dashboard, but you should also have a tournament personnel dashboard, as that is where the information that Susie, Charlie, and others put for you to run your section tournament. You can switch now between and among those dashboards using a little switcher underneath your name up at the top. You can also scroll all the way down to the bottom to the blue, and you can switch to that tournament personnel dashboard if you're a person with multiple. If you don't have a tournament personnel dashboard, please contact us at the league at info@mshsl.org, and we will set you up with that. If you have a tournament personnel dashboard, but you're not seeing the right tournament assigned to you, please reach out to your region secretary and they can assist you with that. On your tournament personnel dashboard, there is a section called Section Tournament Management Resources. In the winter tournament management documents, when you click on that, you're going to see a number of Google folders that are filled by our staff. You can see all of them. Chances are you only want to look for the wrestling one. And again, that's where Susie's going to put that information for you that helps you to manage your tournament. Also on your dashboard, the directories, the school directory and the coach directory are where you should be going to get lists of email addresses and or contact information for those in your section. There is a lot more information behind these two that is on your dashboard than you're going to find out on the public website. If you find information here that is inaccurate, often that is that the AD has not updated information about coaching staff or principal or even the information at their own school. And we would ask you to reach out and work with that school and or us to get that information. Our databases are only as good as those folks who update them. And sometimes they need a reminder or we need to reach out and do some teaching with them. So if you pull a list and say, I know this person is not the coach at this school anymore, reach out to Susie and or us at the league or even the school, and we can get that fixed so that that is accurate going forward. Also on your tournament personnel dashboard, you'll find a button that says website help guide. Behind that button are a number of one-page help sheets, and those will help you do these next 3 tasks that we're going to talk about. So again, those are your instructions behind that website help guide button. There are 3 tasks that we ask you to do. One is to make sure that the section event information is correct. Secondly, we ask you to post information for the participants. And then third, we ask you to update brackets so that those are accurate. The very first one, the section event information. This is an area of the website where a lot of information is put in about each section event for all of the 600+ section tournaments that are run. This populates a number of places across the website, and you'll see the directions there on how to find that. Often your region secretary has already updated this. Often they do this kind of over the summer as they're looking forward to the next school year. But I would ask that you go in and double check this. This is the dates and the venues that you are using. And again, this shows up on the wrestling page when you sort and search by each of your section tournaments. The second thing that we ask you to do is to post information for those participants. Every coach and AD on their dashboard has a spot. My example here says volleyball girls. Theirs would say wrestling. And then it would say the name of the specific section tournament that they are in. When you add resources here, it puts all of those things in one place for them. So any of those documents that you might have that you would email out to people, again, we all know how our email gets and we can't find things. We would ask that you post those to this area. Susie posts a whole bunch of resources under that state tournament resources, as well as over on the left-hand column for the activity resources. So this band really becomes that one spot, go-to spot for ADs and coaches to find all of that information about regular season, section tournaments, as well as state tournaments. And then finally for wrestling, you have 2 types of brackets in wrestling, as we all know. Our team brackets for wrestling run out of our website. Susie has created those and has shared those out with region secretaries to give access to you. So your first one is to manage your team brackets. And again, those are done through our website. Secondly, your individual brackets, those will come through Track Wrestling, and Susie and others will link those up across the website. So when you go to a section event, we'll find those. And then moving on, a little information about media. Just a reminder that at a section postseason tournament, the region committee makes decisions about media coverage. During the regular season, schools determine who has access to their tournaments from the media. At a postseason, that comes from the region committee. So make sure that you are working with your region secretary to determine anything about streaming, media attendance, media access, all of those ideas. You do have a spot linked on your dashboard that says media page. And that is where you can find the media policy manual. You can also find the league's annual approved media list. Most sections take that and use that for access to those. So again, just a reminder, make sure that you're working with your region secretary on anything media streaming related. Charlie, I'll throw it back to you to continue with section wrestling information.
Great, thank you, Laura. And again, appreciate the continual development of the website. It's just it's an incredible tool, and as you said, encouraging our schools to make sure the information they supply is up to date, because that just helps our website even function better and as it's intended. Resources available to you as tournament managers, the section managers guide. I would also include the management keys that were shared in the email and invite for this meeting. I think there's a really nice kind of running list of different pieces of tournament administration that you may have questions on or run into, and will provide assistance. NFHS Wrestling Rules Book. It's great to make sure that every site manager has a copy of that rules book. The rules, the Wrestling Rules and Policies document found in dashboards, Coach AD dashboard, you can access as well as a couple external sources that just have really been developed over time. John and Tony have developed a track wrestling cheat sheet, and there's a lot of great information there. It's especially helpful for coaches as well, and they have access to it, but it's always good to turn their attention back to those resources if they have questions. In addition, a section and state tournament FAQ document has been created. Again, when we hear questions 2, 3, 4 times, we believe that that's information that more and more people maybe are looking for, and so we've put those in those documents. Also important when you work with site managers to point them to the Behavior Expectations Toolkit that is in Coach AD and Tournament Personnel dashboards, in AD and Tournament Personnel dashboards. This toolkit has a number of image files for you to use, in addition to our actual documents as behavior expectations that have been laid out and identified by our students over the last couple of years. Most of our ADs should be familiar with this. Tournament personnel maybe not, but again, that resource is in your dashboard, and would just be a good opportunity for you to be able to publish, post, and share expectations for all of those that are attending your section contests. And then finally, emergency protocols, emergency action plans, also documentation, as Laura mentioned in the your section manager resources. You can find these documents for you as well. Now we can move on, Suze. As is the case with most of our tournaments, just want you to think about who your primary contacts are and to establish a chain of communication if and when the need arises. And just a reminder that as you are managing tournaments locally, please work with, if you are a site manager, work with your tournament manager. If you are a tournament manager, please first work with your region secretary. Certainly here at the league staff, myself, as well as Rick and Tony and John, we can assist when things get elevated. But if there are issues happening, we want to make sure that your region secretary is aware and your region committee is aware. Again, it's not that we're not willing to help. We certainly are. We just want to make sure that all of the appropriate people are informed. And when there are issues at the region and section level, that they are first addressed, and the first point of solution is handled at that region level. Tournament managers should be familiar with wrestling rules and policies. There's a wealth of information in there, including postseason weight certification. Coaches may be reaching out and asking you questions related to maybe the process for for weigh-ins and how minimum weight's established, and what if I only have 3 weigh-ins. That's your first place to look where you can get information that can answer your questions. And then finally, confirm that all the teams that are assigned to your section are planning or allowed to participate prior to seeding. The situation we want to avoid is we seed the tournament and then we find out that there's a program that is maybe not competing in the team tournament, and then we have to go in and reseed that tournament. That can be messy. It can change locations. It can change times. And we want to avoid that. So please confirm that all the schools that are assigned to your section are in fact participating. And again, the communication and the rationale for this meeting is we want to create as much consistency as we can throughout each of our section events, and make sure that communication flows accordingly. It will be helpful if you provide all of the site staff with the section manager's guide, any notes, point them to this video, which is being recorded and will be posted, and then to any of the section documents that are in the dashboard. Discuss any key points with them, maybe work through any site-specific challenges or issues that may be coming up, rules and policies, other pertinent information that may be necessary. Be sure to follow all the rules and policies. Are we in the right spot here, Suze? Yes.
I think so. Sorry, I was trying to multitask.
That's okay. My eyes were darting ahead as well, and I want to make sure we're in the right spot. Back to the consistency. The more consistent we are at the section level, the more consistent we're going to be at the state level, and the smoother the experience for all of our schools that are participating. So as you think about the rules and policies information, 20 are in uniform. Now we've reduced the number of weight classes from 14 to 13 in boys. We've increased the number of weight classes in girls from 12 to 13, but for our team tournament, we can have 20 wrestlers in uniform. 3 coaches are allowed according to board policy. And a reminder that those coaches need to be school approved, and they must meet their education requirements and the Minnesota State statute requirement to be a head coach. We can assist in making that determination, but again, be communicating that 3 coaches are allowed for the team tournament. And then 1 student assistant or manager is allowed as well. An often confusing piece of bylaw 206.6, that is around student eligibility. An ineligible student may not be in uniform, be on the bench, or receive awards during postseason competition. That is different than how ineligible students are treated during the regular season. Again, we work hard to share this information with our schools, especially come tournament time. That would be good information for you as a section manager to be sharing with schools. The bylaw reference is there. Use our handbook to find the specific language. Be sharing that with coaches and ADs prior to your tournament starting. Little bit of information here about track wrestling, and I would invite John on or Tony maybe afterwards just to mop up any information or clarify any pieces here. Last night marked the first of 2 mandatory virtual postseason meetings for our head coaches. There's another meeting on January 22nd. Both of those are at 7:30 p.m. I believe last night's was recorded and posted. And again, the idea behind these meetings is to give coaches good information well in advance of our section tournaments, to make the postseason weight certification process as smooth as possible, not only for the coaches and for the participants, but for you as tournament managers as well. Our weight certification says that for postseason says that 50% of your weigh-ins following January 15th, that's yesterday, must be at the weight you intend to wrestle. I believe track wrestling does assist us in the calculation. with that, we do have situations where athletes do not have weigh-ins. There is an appeals process that schools can follow, and so we would ask that you point folks there. I think the bigger piece that you want as you communicate with schools in your section prior to your section tournaments, communicate with schools that it is advantageous for them to have at least one weigh-in because injured and ineligible wrestlers are allowed to weigh in at bona fide events that their school is participating in, even if they are unable to participate due to ineligibility or injury. Individual seating will take place via track wrestling with any adjustments and changes happening in the pre-tournament seating meeting that will happen on site prior to that event. And I would just, John or Tony, is there anything else that you'd like to add for our section managers as it relates to track wrestling?
Yeah, just a few tidbits if it's okay. The tournaments have been created in track, but they're not completely set up yet. So look for an email from Tony that will have your login information. This is for both team and individual. Once you have that login information, then the tournament is good to go. We can certainly help you get things set up if you don't have a lot of experience with track. Refer to the track or the section manager cheat sheet for directions on that. All of you, please make sure to email me with the name, phone, and email for your track wrestling computer person. That's really important for Tony and myself when we're trying to get tournaments set up and that kind of thing. So please remember to do that. Charlie mentioned weight certification. Tony and I will spend quite a bit of time on the day after the regular season ends, putting together all of the postseason weight certifications for all the kids on all the teams. We will send yours out to you within a day or two after that. So look for the postseason weight certifications for your section to come out on or about February 12th. It's a Monday. That will make things a lot easier for you. There's nothing then that you have to look up. For the girls sections, we will send out the girls weight certifications during the week leading up to their tournament. So that's a week before the team starts. That's all I have, Charlie.
Great, thank you, John. We can go to the next slide, Suze. Again, the team lineup must be approved by the tournament manager prior to the start of the tournament. The manager will certify those weights and track wrestling again helps with that. But again, make sure that the lineup is in alignment with the allowable weights. And if there are changes, please note our substitution policy. If there are changes that need to be made in that team tournament due to illness, injury, or in some case ineligibility, we want to make sure that any athletes that may be able to participate after the first round, maybe they're not ready, and or eligible to participate in the first round, they should show up on that 20-person roster. With an injury or illness, with a doctor's note, we can approve a substitute for that opening round to be replaced when that student is medically cleared. In the case of an ineligible student, they would be on the 20-person roster, and they would only have 19 student athletes in uniform during that opening round if they intend to use that ineligible student athlete later on in the team tournament. Go to the next slide, Suze. And again, we just kind of walked through this. The key piece here is the injured athlete. We want to have medical documentation. We want to avoid coaches just engaging in gamesmanship. We want a bona fide note from a physician that a student is unable to participate, and then we need that medical clearance when the student is coming back, and they would go in and replace specifically the substitute that was put in their place. In the individual tournament, once the weight class has been seated, wrestlers are not allowed to switch weight classes. Changes may be made if a wrestler cannot compete due to injury and there is proper medical documentation. A replacement can be made and the weight will be reseated. If the wrestler scratches and there's no replacement for that wrestler, the weight class will be reseated if that was a seated wrestler, or if the wrestler was unseated in the tournament, a bye will appear and the tournament will proceed forward as is. And again, once an individual misses a round of the individual tournament, they are out for the tournament. There is no coming back in an individual tournament. As always, we ask you to review the medical protocols. Our student participant safety is our #1 priority. So please review and discuss documents as tournament staff. Make sure that you have appropriate medical staff at your site, and understand that tournament staff, tournament assigned medical staff, will have final authority when it comes to making medical determinations for a student athlete. So a school may have their trainer present, a trainer that's been with them all the time. They certainly may assist in medical situations, but any final determination on continuing in that tournament format would be left to the athletic trainer or physician that's hired by the section. Return to play can happen with approval from the appropriate healthcare professional. And the section assigned medical assigner already said that. And then the last point I want to make here is develop emergency action plans for each site. Again, addresses are different, door locations are different, AED locations are different for every site. If you are using 2 gymnasiums in one facility, be sure to develop emergency action plans and have those reviewed, have those posted, make sure the key people in the tournament administration are ready to respond in the event that there's an emergency. Work with your region secretary if there's inclement weather and there's the possibility of having to adjust the tournament or change the date. If necessary, I can work with your region secretary if there are schedule adjustments that need to be made. Merchandising and or streaming all needs to be approved by the region secretary or the region committee. So if plans like those, which are often being made, come to your attention, please connect with your region secretary to be sure that they are aware and that has been approved and is allowed through the region committee. For those that qualify both in the team tournament and as individuals, please know that qualifying information will be posted in coach and AD dashboards. In fact, a lot of state tournament information is already posted, thanks to Susie and Shannon in our office for working ahead of the curve and getting a lot of that work done already. We will also communicate directly with those that qualify, and we will be hosting, as is the case with most of our state level tournaments, we will be hosting a qualifiers meeting just to provide additional, more detailed information and helps to answer questions schools and coaches may have as they prepare for state tournament participation. That concludes our meeting now. I'm looking at Rick at the bottom of my page now in the top right corner. Rick, from an official's perspective, is there anything you'd like to add for our section managers?
Charlie, you're incredibly thorough. Susie's help is always shown here. One piece here, I'm going to be having a conference call with all officials prior to the girls section, as well as all postseason after the girls section. So we will go over everything that is needed from the officials' standpoint. One thing we are doing is weighing in at the team tournament by team, not by weight, by team, and that'll be explained to the tournament officials in detail on that call. One other piece, any injury, Charlie had covered this, wrestler injured by a head, neck, and cervical injury must be cleared by a doctor rather than the on-site medical professional. We certainly hope that doesn't happen, but anybody that is injured under a head, neck, and cervical injury must be cleared by a doctor before they come back in. And that's National Federation rules. So again, I'm going to have the staff ready to roll. Officials will be ready to go. We will have a conference call and go through every bit of this prior to sections.
Thank you, Rick. Any questions from folks on the call right now as you prepare for your section management?
Charlie, do we want to have John or Tony go through how, when teams are participating outside Minnesota and now have 14 weight classes, or girls, how we're going to do the 50% weight so that at least the tournament managers understand that?
I think that's a great idea, and I'm going to put that on pause, Squeeze, because Norm asked a question going back to Rick's comment about working with officials on weigh-in process. Norm is asking, please explain the team weigh-in process, Rick.
Okay, teams will weigh in by team. So team one will come in and they'll weigh in from beginning to end. Once the team is complete, all of the extras have been weighed in, that team is finished. And then the next team will come in. So we'll start at the beginning of a low weights of a team and weigh in all the way through. Doesn't have to be in order. We prefer it, but we are not doing it by weight class. We're doing it by team.
Okay, so we don't have to say
Track weight.
107 and all your sevens, and then 107's closed. They step on, and wherever they're at, they're at.
That's correct, Norman. And both procedures are supported by the National Federation, but we in Minnesota are going to do the team weigh-in because it was less chance of error, and we won't have any issues with that.
Sounds like a
We're only
good.
concerned about the scratch weight, Norm.
Yep, gotcha.
Good question, Norm. Yeah, and now if John or Tony would just speak to those teams that might be participating across borders here between January 15th and the postseason.
Okay, so and Tony and I explained this to the coaches last night, but basically, the coaches, if they're competing in an event that's outside Minnesota, they're going to create a weigh-in sheet that's got the Minnesota weight classes on it, attach it to the event, and put in the actual weights for the wrestlers. And then that way, Track Wrestling will just automatically count it as just like a Minnesota weigh-in, and it'll crank out the correct information for us when it comes to postseason weight certifications at the end.
Thank you, John.
And girls, you're manually doing, John?
Correct. So any girls weight classes that don't match up with the boys, Tony and I will do those by hand. Any girls weight classes that are the same as the boys, and there aren't that many, but Track will automatically calculate those correctly.
We are at 3:32. I would welcome any additional questions for folks on the call. Great. Well, thanks to Susie and Shannon for all of your work kind of getting us ready and to this point, and more to be done here as we get closer to those section tournaments.
Charlie, just one question, Charlie, before we stop. When and where will you post the recording of this?
Susie, I'm turning that to you.
Perfect. I will get that posted yet this afternoon, and I will
Okay.
post it on the tournament personnel resources.
Thank you.
So same, that Google Drive where you'll find everything else.
Thank you.
got a question on streaming. Is there only approved streamers for the section tournaments?
The approved at the section level is going to be determined by your region secretary. There may be more than one that is allowed into that event. Typically, what is not allowed is a parent that just wants to stream on Facebook Live for the rest of the family that can't be in attendance. But again, I would ask that question directly of your region secretary, because our staff is not approving who's accessing your tournaments and what they're doing with the video or audio that they're capturing.
We've had the same people streaming the last couple years. And last year there was kind of a glitch for some reason in who was allowed to stream. And they asked me already about streaming it. So I'll talk to Nancy. I'm Al Price from 6 AAA. And I'll talk to Nancy and make sure that we're still good with them streaming it.
Yeah, that's your best plan.
Okay, thank you.
It's a good question. Thank you. Hearing no further questions, I think we're going to conclude this meeting. And again, thanks for joining us. Have a good rest of your afternoon and reach out with any questions along the way. Best wishes.